And I try to be as prompt as I can. I'm looking at Dr. Barron's watch. It's actually 11:31. So good morning. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting today, especially the good turnout. I like to see, always love to see people here attending the meeting. And how about if we have Linda Sands call the roll?
Trustee Ballard? Here. Trustee Benz?
Here.
Trustee Burke?
Here.
Trustee Camps?
Here.
Trustee Contreras?
Here.
Trustee Duda?
Here.
Trustee Gruters?
Here.
Trustee Haggard?
Here.
Trustee Hillis?
Here.
Trustee Pantene? Trustee Rolando?
Here.
Trustee Sembler?
Present.
Trustee Tyson?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Wonderful. Well, as usual, I want to remind you, if you make a motion or second, please call your name out. And if you are on telephones, if you would put your phone on silent unless you're ready to speak or participate, we sure would appreciate that. Sometimes we get some really neat elevator music that is not really good for the meeting. So anyway, and I thank you all for being here today. I know it's short notice, and I don't like the term emergency meeting. I never like the term emergency, but by statutes, I think we call it an emergency meeting. So let's call it a special meeting from here on. We all know why we're here, and I want to, again, thank everyone for being here. We're going to open up with some brief remarks by President Barron. President Barron, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, the first thing I want to do is apologize for how many of you learned what I was contemplating, and it certainly was not my intent to have it emerge that way. Maybe it wasn't a surprise to see it leak, but I just want to make sure that you know that certainly was not my intent. The second thing I want you to know is I will do everything I can, date, timing, advice, wandering around talking to donors, you name it. This place is incredibly important to me, and I love it deeply, and I'm incredibly proud of all the things that have occurred over the last 4 years and all the successes that are here really because of our faculty and staff and alumni who are so incredibly committed to this institution. Certainly there's a lot of pain to be making such a change when you've been full in heart and soul for such a long period of time, but that wouldn't match the pain that I think I would feel if this institution did not continue to move at the speed that it's capable at and deserves to move forward at. And so I know you have work to do. I apologize for the fact that you have work to do, but the most important thing that I can imagine is to make sure that this institution is moving forward, because there's a lot to be proud of. And I am also now going to exit the room, despite the fact that this is probably the least private setting that you can possibly imagine. I still want to make sure that you feel free to have any conversation that you might have and talk about the future without my being here. And so I just want to thank you. I will look forward to the March board meeting and the opening of the Honors Fellows and Scholars House, which I think is truly going to be wonderful. And please, I'm serious. You tell me I need to do something for you, I'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barron. And any comments before he leaves the room? Anyone want to make any comments at all? Floor is open.
Trustee Hillis.
Trustee Hillis,
I just want to thank President Barron for everything you have done for our university, all the initiatives you've established, and we're going to continue to implement everything you've done for us to the best of our ability. Thanks.
Any more comments? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Barron. I'm sorry? Anyone on the phone, go ahead. You're recognized.
Dr. Barron, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for Florida State University. I enjoyed so much working with you when I was chairman. I learned so much from you. You were a fantastic president, and I will never forget those years and what you accomplished for Florida State. Thank you, Dr. Barron.
Thank you, Trustee Haggard. We appreciate that. Good remarks. Anybody else? Okay. We're going to move on now. I wanted to make sure that we met swiftly and efficiently, and we have business to conduct, as everyone in this room knows, and all of you trustees understand. My purpose today is to get your feedback on where we are and where we go, and there are three main items that we want to talk about today that I think are very prudent. One is whether to accept the President's resignation effective April the 2nd and waive Section 12.4 of his employment contract. Secondly, to begin the search process, including a search committee. I don't intend today to establish the members of that search committee. I think that we need to be thoughtful and prudent. And in fact, in this whole entire process, I want to make sure that all of us are thoughtful, deliberate, prudent, but swift. If you take a look at, and I say swift, I don't want to go on 2 years. I'm exaggerating to make a point. I don't want to go 2 years looking for a new president. But I take a look at the last two presidents. President Weatherall, I think his search committee was 60 or 90 days, something like that. And I think President Barron's search committee was roughly 90 days or less. I'm not implying that we have to follow in those numbers, but I think a lot of people met with a lot of people, a lot of candidates in the last two searches, and we certainly I intend to make sure that we visit with as many great candidates as we can to follow up with President Barron's leadership. So I have no preconceived notions as to who should be the next president. I want to make sure that's on the record. I want to make sure we find the best person who can take the ball from where it is right now that President Barron has left us and move it even further ahead. And I was telling somebody, and I've tried to call as many of our supporters as possible in the last 2 days, a lot of phone calls. I burned out my cell phone 2 or 3 times. But I want to make sure that our supporters knew that, we're going to move forward, that we certainly appreciate Dr. Barron's service, but we're going to move forward. And we'll do it in an efficient and effective manner. But I have said to some of these folks that when you're good like we are in FSU, we're not good, we're great. People pick off your players and your leaders, and it's a compliment to us as a university that President Barron was swooped up by someone else. Don't like it, not wild about it, but it happens, and I get that. I understand that. So, and I will tell you that Dr. Barron called me last Monday and told me about what was going on and the fact that the trustees would not meet until a week later, and asked me to keep it between the two of us, and I did. I think it's important that you have trust in each other. In my visit with him, it was, I'm not going to talk you out of this, am I? And I've been in business for 40 years. And sometimes you counter offer and whatever. There's sometimes when you just say, I wish you the best of luck. And this is one of those where you say, I wish you the best of luck. So again, I'm so sorry that Dr. Barron has left us, but we're going to move on. And we're going to do great things at FSU for years to come. And the process begins today. The third thing I want to talk about today is an interim president. And I will tell you that right now, I'm not prepared to make a determination on that. It's early. Just a reminder, folks, Dr. Barron officially left less than 48 hours ago. So we're early, but I don't want to have everyone think that we're sitting here sitting on our thumbs as well. So it's time to move on. Having said all that, I would like to get feedback from board members, first of all, on who you think, what are the qualities of the next president for FSU? Clearly, in the environment that we live in Florida, we have a political process that is probably unique, one of the more unique ones in America, that requires that the president be involved in what's going on a few hundred yards to the east of us. That's part of it. We also need to make sure that we have wonderful faculty here, that the next president understands the needs of the faculty and how to manage the faculty, as well as our students, our wonderful, wonderful students, and to make sure that that person is in tune with their wants and needs. So having said that, I'd love to get some feedback from members. And by the way, trustees that are on the phone, present today at the Turnbull building are Trustee Tyson, Trustee Hillis, Trustee Ballard, and Trustee Contreras. So there are 5 of us here, so you know for the record who are here. But having said that, I would like to get your feedback on the qualities of the next president of FSU. So I'll open the floor up.
Alan, it's Andy Haggard again. May I say a few words?
You got it, Andy. You're recognized.
Thank you very much, Alan. What I think we need to do is look at all of the successes that we've had, Alan, in the last 2 years. I think we're extremely fortunate to be where we are today. And when looking for a model president, to me, I don't think you need to look too far further than Eric Barron. I think we need someone with the same vision, the same work habits, the same foresight, and the same leadership. In attaining those certain goals that Eric has already attained for us, and of course more in the future. That includes, of course, fundraising, a tremendous concern for athletics and for our students, which Eric has certainly demonstrated. I think we need to follow the same path to greatness as Eric mentioned earlier, and that he has led us on in a tremendous, tremendous ability that he had. And of course, I think we also need another Molly. And by the way, is Molly leaving with him? I didn't read that in the papers or not.
You're good.
If not out, I think we need to keep Molly, okay, without any question. But between us, I just honestly can say what better place to look than what we've accomplished in the past and all the great things that Eric and the Board of Trustees and the faculty have all aligned for the future. Everything that we have planned for the future, top 25, and all the things that I could go through. That's the president that we need to look for. That's the president that we need to have in the future. And I think we're also extremely fortunate to have Eric stay with us till April with SACs coming up, with the budget coming up, with the legislature. We're extremely fortunate to have Eric with us during that time. But those are my thoughts on it, and I think that with all of that, we're going to have another great president succeeding a great president. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Haggard. Who's next?
Mr. Chairman, Joe Camps.
Hey, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you so much. I thought echo what Andy had to say, but I believe another quality is a president that's a good listener. And Dr. Barron probably was one of the best listeners I've ever met in my life. And I think that's a key talent to have in order to move the institution forward. And I can't add much more than that in what Andy said, and I agree with everything he said 100%. But certainly someone that communicates well that I think is essential, with a keen sense of the faculty development. And I know that Dr. Barron really pushed us forward academically, and the mission of the university is to educate students and have innovative research and those kinds of things. So I think that needs to certainly be included in one of the qualities as we look to a new leader.
Great remarks, Trustee Camps. Thank you so much. Trustee Hillis, you're recognized.
Just to add maybe a couple things, somebody that will work closely with our legislature and our governor to foster the relations that we should have with them, and also that's a good strategic planner, and someone who is going to work very closely with athletics to ensure that, you know, there is an athletic initiative, and that works very well for Florida State University.
Trustee Contreras, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. I think from a student perspective, I think one of the things that resonated so well with students was that President Barron was able to focus on raising the academic profile of our institution, not only in the state but nationally as well. And so when you have students that obviously have committed 4 years of their time here or less, and they're graduating, they're thinking about what the prestige of their degrees is. And I know that's a soundbite that we've heard often, but at least on my end, as somebody that's graduating in May, if my institution is taking care of things on the back end, then I can ensure that when I go out for a job and I bear that name of Florida State University, that it's going to carry me far. And so what President Barron was able to do, and also the way that he was able to get buy-in from so many areas of campus, not only his cabinet, upper level administration, but also from a fundraising perspective and from a student perspective, it was incredible. And I think that's because it was a clear vision that he set. And so because that clear vision incorporated this idea of raising the academic profile while also maintaining a healthy relationship with the state legislature, he put us in an excellent position. And so I can't drive that point further as a student, that while we do care about the success of our team on an athletic, from an athletic perspective or otherwise, the point of the matter is we're here to get an education, an outstanding one, and we certainly have all of the pieces in place to do it. We just need that leader that's able to gather information and make the best decisions for it. So that's what I would say from a student perspective.
Thank you, Trustee Contreras. Trustee Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you. I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about, I think, the advantage that universities throughout the nation have in selecting administration. I think more so than even you see in business, cross-pollination is a very important aspect of how universities grow. We saw this with Eric Barron, who spent time at Texas, who spent time at Penn State, and who brought ideas from those institutions, the best of the ideas from those institutions. And we saw it in how he hired at the provost level and at the vice president's level. This cross-pollination continued. So what I'd really like to see in the candidates that we look at is a resume that shows this strength from other universities and being able to bring that in. I think we've certainly improved tremendously under that kind of guidance. You don't want to exclusively do that, but I think we see the benefits of that throughout the entire university system in the United States. So that's the primary thing that I would look at. In terms of what qualities should the person have, I think we'll end up with a bunch of candidates that are good to excellent in a lot of things. I suspect many of the candidates won't have as much experience dealing with the legislature because many campuses don't have to deal with that other than in this state. But we've seen in Eric's case that can be learned, and many of the other things are very difficult to do. So I would hope to see candidates coming with a very strong academic background, preferably from schools that we consider are aspirational schools, and learn more from them.
Good points. Other members on the phone? Anyone else have some ideas and thoughts?
Trustee Rolando, if the chair will recognize me.
Trustee Rolando, you're recognized.
I think that one thing that impressed me enormously about President Barron is that he was very goal-oriented, very clear, and developed great momentum for implementing ideas very quickly. And that when he came up with ideas, he drew on his own resources as well as engaging the university for ideas and maximizing its resources. And so I very much agree with the comments that have previously been expressed. I don't want to repeat them, but I think we, when we're looking at candidates, we really need to have a new president who will be goal-oriented and maintain the momentum. And I think this is especially critical because we've just obtained the preeminent stature. We've also have at least a portion of our funding based upon performance, and we cannot allow a lag or a delay for a year or two while our new president figures out the roadmap. And so it's very, very tough to impose that kind of burden on someone because they do have some ramp-up time, but we really cannot afford to lose momentum.
This is Leslie Pantene.
Hey, Trustee Pantene, you recognize. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
Are we going to hire a search firm?
I anticipate that we will. I think it's important that we find the best and brightest in America. That clearly will be up to the search committee, but I would certainly recommend to the search committee that we hire a search firm.
All these ideas that we're hearing need to be in writing. Experience of a search firm, kind of leader, are all coming. So, like, we don't start repeating ourselves, and we get an outline, kind of person we're looking. And the search firm will be helpful. Being a leader like Aaron last time.
Trustee Pantene, you're breaking up a little bit. You're fading out on us a little bit, but I think we got your point.
Let me pick up the phone. You hear me better?
That's better, much better.
Okay, yes, so I recommend we have a search firm helping us.
Gotcha. And those are my thoughts, and I suspect it's probably the same thoughts of the members of the Board of Trustees. Let's get the best and the brightest, and the way to do that is to find the best and brightest firm to get that accomplished. So I think we'll do that. Any more comments, Trustee Pantene, Mr. Vice Chairman?
Yes, sir. Brent Sembler, can you recognize me?
I'm sorry, who?
Brent Sembler.
Hey, Trustee Sembler, you're recognized. How are you today?
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I cannot be with you. I think everything's really been said. I think it's important that, at least for me, I want to start talking about process and like Trustee Pantene, I think it's important that the board still have some input as to what our new president looks like. But if we're done with that, again, I'm more about process. Alan, I know you are too, so that's my only comment.
Well, and to follow up on your comments too, I would like for each board member to put in writing not just what you talked about today, but what do you think the qualities are or should be in our next president? And if you would address those to, I guess you can't address those to me as from a sunshine perspective, but to our general counsel, Carolyn Egan, if you'd address those to her, that would be very helpful. And I really do hope that each of you, submits your thoughts, and don't even restrict it to the next president. Where is FSU going? Where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10 years? I mean, don't limit yourself to simply saying, this is what I think the qualities should be, or these are the qualities of the next president. So it's a wide open slate for each of you. So having said that, any more trustees have comments?
Yes, sir, President Sembler again.
I heard Trustee Duda. Trustee Duda, you're recognized.
Yes, I would like to see us be able to ascertain if a person, I would hope if, I'd like to get both qualities, politically and private and academic, but I would also like, if the person has an ego, I want them to be able to hire the best that would help him achieve his, if he is weak in certain areas, he would not have the ego that wouldn't let him hire the best to help him.
Good point, Trustee Duda. Very good point. Any more comments from you, Trustee Duda? Any other thoughts?
No.
And Trustee Sembler, if I cut you off, I certainly apologize. Did you have some more remarks?
Well, just one other. I know we've got a Board of Trustees meeting coming up next month, and I just, as far as process comment was concerned, I'd like us to have a section on our committee meeting to talk about this, and I'd like it to be a goal that we at least have a smaller executive search team kind of identified before that meeting. Thank you.
Elaborate more, Trustee Sembler, if you would.
On which part, Alan?
A smaller search team, is that what you said, or a smaller select committee? I mean, tell me more.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I thought we talked about that. Yeah, I think it would behoove us to have a smaller group of people involved in the search committee. I think it's important for the board, like today, to have input, and certainly we have final say. But I think I would recommend that we have a smaller committee that represents all the interests on the board, but it's just going to be less wieldy. And I think we're talking about moving quickly, which I certainly agree with. And I just think there's people certainly on the board that I trust with that decision. Does that help?
That helps. Trustee Hillis, you're recognized.
Following up on what Brent is saying, I was thinking that maybe we put together a presidential advisory and screening committee where we set up the criteria and we work with the administration related to the hiring of this search firm and the selection of the search firm. But the most important decision we make as a Board of Trustees is the hiring of the president of our university. So I would think that maybe with you as in that committee and maybe 3 other trustees to help set the guidelines and work on this between now and our next board meeting as to what we're looking for.
Okay.
Chairman Joe Gruters here.
Trustee Gruters, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. First off, I greatly appreciate the fact that you're opening this up and asking for our ideas. And I agree with what Trustee Hillis just said. The picking of the university president is the most important job that we have as trustee members. And with that, I think that we need to do everything we can to find a president that what Trustee Rolando said is find a president who will maximize the potential of Florida State. One word that wasn't mentioned earlier was integrity, and I think that probably that with strong leadership and I would prefer another Florida State alum to come back, if at all possible. I don't exclude non-Florida State grads from applying, but if I had my way, I'd hire another Florida State alum.
So Gators off limits, huh?
Exactly right.
Keep going.
And it's not surprising that Penn State hired an FSU grad to lead their university.
Well, we sure did good with the last FSU alumni with Dr. Barron, so that would certainly be nice if we could do that again. Trustee Gritters, any more comments?
No, I appreciate the opportunity.
Trustee Contreras, you're recognized for comments.
Thank you, Chairman, and I don't mean to extend the conversation any longer.
That's
I think-
okay.
I
We
think
have
there
all
been-
day. We
yeah,
have
there
all
have been
day.
very good comments made, but on that point that Trustee Gruters brought up, I think it's really important, and maybe it's not a characteristic that you can ascertain from somebody's resume or from interviews, but it's the sense of loyalty to the institution that can be exemplified, I think, by graduating from the institution. I think that means a lot. But also, what has the contact been with this institution in the past? So if that person is an alumni, have they made active attempts to get involved either from a fundraising perspective or at all with the Alumni Association? So what is that person's profile, sort of their complete profile and their relationship with the institution? Now, obviously, that would be null and void if that person did not have a relationship prior to their hiring, but if we are looking in that direction, then I think not only is a degree from Florida State important, but also the quality and the quantity of contact with the institution. And so, once again, it's one of those things that you can probably tease out after much time, and it may lengthen the process, but I think it'd be a good point to consider.
Absolutely. I
I
can't agree more. Anyone on the phone? Who was out there now?
Leslie Pantine.
Trustee Pantine, you recognize.
If it's, I don't remember how it was done last time, the search firm. But if all possible, it'd be good if it's ready by the time we have the board meeting in 2 weeks, and even better if the search firm people are in Tallahassee that week.
Trustee Pantine, I tend to agree with you on that. I think we need to move swiftly to find a firm, and we'll talk about that as the meeting progresses.
Okay.
More comments? Please feel free. Okay. All right, we're going to move on. I have a couple of presentations today, but I will make this comment before we move on, and that is that the good news is I have the energy to do this as chairman. I told some folks last week that I went to see my doctor. He says, "Vince, you're doing great." He says, "But you got to gain more weight." He said, "Eat." I said, "Eat what?" He said, "Eat anything." So I had a milkshake this morning before I got here. I'm eating everything. And he said, "How often are you working out?" I said, "Well, I'm doing therapy like 4 days a week for 4 hours a day." He said, "Quit working out so much." So I said, "Doc, let me get this straight. You want me to eat more food and quit working out?" And he said, "Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I said." So I'm playing a little bit, but my energy level is back up. I'm up for this. Again, I made a lot of phone calls, and I will be very involved in the next 60, 90 days in the university. Where we go from here, I think it's important that we have leadership, and I'll do my best to provide good leadership without being dictatorial. And there's a fine line sometimes in that, but I will do my best to be a good, fair leader. While everyone wasn't wild about me when I was Speaker of the House, generally speaking, I think a lot of folks thought I was as even-handed as I could be. So whatever. Having said that, why don't we go ahead and take up the issue of President Barron's resignation effective April the 2nd. And I would entertain a motion that basically says that we accept President Barron's resignation effective April 2, and that we waive Section 12.4 of his employment contract, which requires 180 days' notice. Is there a motion?
Trustee Hillis so moves.
Hillis moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Contreras seconds. Are there questions? Is there debate on the motion? Are there objections to the motion? Seeing none, show the motion approved. I would like to move on to SACS accreditation. I don't need to tell any of you trustees that we're in the middle of a SACS accreditation. I've asked Dr. Bradley to be here today to give us an update, since he is our point person on SACS accreditation. And Dr. Bradley, you're recognized to give us an update on where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you're right, we are in the middle of our reaffirmation process. This is a 10-year process that we're in the middle of. The on-site committee will be here next month, the 25th, 26th, 27th, and they'll be meeting with people on campus. Before that, they'll be meeting with people in the Republic of Panama, branch campus down there, the Panama City branch campus, and they're going to be down in Sarasota as well. It's important to recognize that the president is the point person on campus for the SACS organization. Every piece of correspondence goes to them, goes through the president. The president is the one who's notified of everything. So the president is key. We have turned in our various documents. Some of you have seen them. We've turned in a 500-page compliance certification document, along with 100,000 pages associated with that. We've turned in our focused report, which is a response to some comments by the off-site committee. We've turned in our QEP, the Quality Enhancement Plan, which is on critical thinking. When they come on campus, they're going to be interested in all those things, along with some things that the federal government require of them. So they'll be meeting with some trustees, but they most especially will be meeting with the president of the university. We had our vice president from SACS on campus in December. We had our chair of our committee on campus in January. They both met individually with the president, and they had a clear expectation that they were going to meet with them again. I'm glad to know that he'll be here on March 25th, 26th, and 27th, because the one thing that they value is a certainty. They don't like to be surprised. They're very interested in predictability, and governance and orderly processes is key to what SACS is about. Ultimately, the first criteria of SACS is integrity. And I know that if they can meet with him on that day, that they will continue to be reassured that the Florida State University is worthy of being reaffirmed in its accreditation.
Dr. Bradley, what is your time frame for, assuming we have a successful SACS review, when would it be over?
We will hear in December of this year by a vote by the Commission on Colleges, which usually occurs it'll probably be in Atlanta. Before then, we'll get some sort of report by the on-site committee. If there are some things that come up, we'll respond, but the actual vote on the recommendations by the on-site committee won't be till December.
Well, trustees, I can tell you that, and not just trustees, but also folks interested in this room, we have the absolute best person I can think of handling our SACS review, and Dr. Bradley, and we appreciate your service. And you know, I will tell you, I'll be there next month when they're here. If I have to spend 3 days, I'll spend 3 days. I might talk some other local trustees into being there as well. So anyway, any questions of Dr. Bradley?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to mention that Ruth Fyack, who is the SACS liaison who works for the provost, she's been integral to this whole process as well. So if you know me, I don't really work that hard, so needless way to work.
Yeah, well, I'm going to lift my legs up because it's getting kind of deep in here, Doc.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Any questions? The other thing I want to, there are other issues to bring up. We have a legislative session that's upon us. Last year we did fairly well in the session. We got some of our we got our reserves back, and we became one of 2 preeminent universities in Florida. But you can't stop. We have to keep going forward. And we have with us today Kathleen Daly, who was our legislative liaison. And Kathleen, would you mind giving us an update on what's going on in Tallahassee and how we as trustees and others can be involved? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Yes, the session begins on Tuesday, March 4th, which is just a couple of weeks away. However, I think we are positioned well. Dr. Barron has left us in a good position for continuing our pursuit of the top 25. I believe that we will be pursuing some more dollars for preeminence and the top 25. We're going to be dealing with some metrics and performance funding. We're going to be looking at some capital outlay dollars. And there is a bill, there's all kinds of bills filed, but there is a bill that has been filed that would limit the process for presidential searches at universities. Right now they are open, and the bills that have been filed may close the process down at the very beginning of the process. It would not close it down entirely. It would open it up after the candidates that would be considered were vetted already. It's a House bill that is moving. It's House Bill 135. It has had one hearing. There is a Senate companion that is very similar that has not had a hearing yet. These bills are difficult to pass. So I am watching that carefully. I'm happy to take any other questions.
Any questions of Ms. Daly? Trustees? Let me tell you, I've been around Kathleen Daly for a long time, and she does a great job for Florida State University, and I'm proud that you're on our team, the best team, and keep up the good work, and we'll assist you anyway. And I speak on behalf of all trustees. Let us know how we can help you in the session coming up.
I really appreciate that. I'm probably going to take you up on that.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know you will. I know you will. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Who is this?
Leslie Pantene.
Trustee Pantene, you're recognized.
What are the chances that that bill helping the process of the search of a president will be in place this year in our search?
If I had a crystal ball, that would be wonderful. I don't know, Trustee Pantene. These are difficult bills to pass. But there are a couple of other universities that are interested in this as well, and I think we'll pull together our resources and try and move it along. It does have an effective date of October 1, 2014, just to let you know that.
So forget it.
Any follow-up questions? Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Thank you so much. We talked about 3 issues to go over. Number 1 was accepting the president's resignation, which we did. The second was the search process. And I'm going to ask Carolyn Egan to give us an update, and I think hopefully all of you board members have received the makeup of the last committee, maybe even the last 2 committees. Ms. Egan, could you get us up to speed on that?
Sure. Earlier this week, I circulated to all the trustees publication from the Association of Governing Boards, which has best practices in it for presidential searches. And I sent you the representation on the last committee, how many were faculty representatives, how many were students, how many were members of the community, what other constituents that they represented. If you've had a chance to read through the AGB document, you'd find that really all of what we did in 2009 was very consistent with all of those best practices in terms of gathering up all of your campus constituents who have something to contribute, which is much like the discussion the trustees have just had about what qualifications are desirable, about, you know, where are we going, where are we now, where are we going, and what do we want to get there, what do we need, who do we need. So a search committee really is charged with identifying those things, taking the direction from the board. The board gives the committee a charge. The committee then has specific direction from this board about what they are to find and how they can measure each candidate with respect to those qualities that have been identified as being important. It was a very open and transparent search, both because we have to by law, but because we want the involvement of the campus and what they have to add. So there was a website available where nominations could be made of individuals who, might not apply themselves, but you think them a good candidate. So you could make nominations that way, suggestions on qualities that we'd be looking for. So it was very open and it was very available, and we wanted to solicit the campus opinions. So, once you have that climate and once you have an understanding of that, you can really begin to zero in on, and this committee can begin to zero in on what exactly they're looking for and do the legwork for the trustees. We don't expect each of you trustees to spend the days on end reviewing resumes and conducting interviews, but the committee will do the legwork and hopefully make some recommendations to bring back to the board that are consistent with the direction that you've given them. The process worked very smoothly, especially with the help of a search firm last time. The search firm does a lot to help you to set out a timeline, to locate candidates, to compare, to draft, sort of a leadership profile of what you're looking for, and to compare with candidates that they can identify and help lead us in the right direction. So I think that's, it's nice to know that we don't have any specific procedures or anything we look to, but we do have our past practice. We do have our precedent there, and that's what we're looking at. But it's nice to be able to compare it to some authoritative source and know that we did before what we should have done and should pretty much continue down that path. So what I'd expect is, we come up with a constituted committee before a proposed committee before the March 6th meeting. You'll be able to vote on that committee. We'll also have a committee charge, and we can make any changes to that and go ahead and get the committee to work and propose a search firm, or maybe some to choose from. I don't know how that'll shake out, but certainly by the next meeting be ready to get all that in place. And I think, but today, in order to get that rolling, I think it would be appropriate for our chairman to appoint a chair of that Presidential Advisory Search Committee.
Any questions of Ms. Egan? Any questions at all? Yeah, and one very good point that she made was the committee takes its marching orders, so to speak, from the Board of Trustees. We are the ones that determine ultimately who the next president of Florida State University will be. We have to, again, sort of walk a fine line between meddling too much, but also providing guidance and leadership. So don't be afraid to visit with the members of the search committee, but let's don't wear them out either. Again, use your own best judgment as to how you want to get involved in that decision. Having said that, I am going to. We could vote on who the person is to head up the search committee, but and who the members will be. But I'm going to tell you, I would appreciate it if you would let me make that appointment. If we can make a motion, someone could perhaps make a motion. And also, I would suggest that you allow me to, which has happened in the past, to appoint members to the search committee. And I will tell you that I will probably be one of the most disliked persons around, because many people want to be part of that search committee, a lot of people. In my phone calls to supporters, I can tell already I'm gonna probably make some folks unhappy, but that's part of leadership. Having said that, I would like to suggest that Ed Burr be chairman of the search committee. I would entertain a motion. Not sure if I have to have one, but I think in the spirit of fair play, I would entertain a motion that Ed Burr chair that committee, and that over the next 2 weeks, that I will appoint members to that committee. I'm not sure, quite frankly. I have no clue who those people will be, and I have no clue if we have subcommittees yet, but I'll have that figured out in a couple days, trust me. So having said that, is there a motion that we appoint Ed Burr as chairman of the search committee?
Trustee Jackson. So moved.
Who was that?
Camps and Duda.
There's a motion and a second and a third and a fourth. That's good. It's always good. There's a motion. Are there questions on Ed Burr being chairman of the search committee? Trustee Contreras, you're recognized.
So this is not a question about the chairmanship of that committee, but rather the makeup and I think for the following motion after this, I have two questions. One is the makeup of this Presidential Search Advisory Committee from 2009. How was that selected in 2009? Was it a chairman, the chairman's appointment?
I can answer that. So each of those entities down the right-hand side submitted their nominations, and I think they limited it to the number of slots that they had, so that the vice president or the direct support organization or whomever was making that appointment submitted one or two people as appropriate. So it filters up through the chain of command of each of those areas.
Sorry, to clarify, how were the members themselves chosen for the committee?
The members themselves were chosen by that entity on the right-hand side. In other words, the SGA chose the student representatives. The vice president in the relevant area chose their representatives. And it was mostly accepted. I don't think any of them weren't accepted.
Okay. So then my follow-up question would be to you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
How you would ensure to get the same kind of representation that was in this search advisory committee. I think it, judging by the makeup and the numbers of it, it's a good cross-section of campus. So how would you ensure to the board that you would be able to get that same?
It will be a good cross-section. I want to, as I said earlier, I want to make sure that students and faculty and alumni and boosters, everybody, and trustees are represented. How we put that together is not the simplest thing in the world, but I will make sure that that we try to follow the models that have been set forth in the past as closely as I can. Is that a good answer?
I think everyone was satisfied that they felt well represented last time and that the process worked very orderly, so I would hope it would again.
But I can tell you there might be some unhappy folks, so I'm prepared to take the heat, but I'll do the very best I can to get as much cross-representation as possible in that committee.
Chairman, this is Trustee Gruters.
You're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Chairman. And again, just to I'm obviously in full support of Ed Burr being chairman, but my question is to the process again. Like both Peggy Rolando and myself said, this is the most important, or this is I guess the biggest thing that we could do as trustees. And as the search committee process gets selected and moves forward, I just want to make sure as the other trustees that are not on this specific committee are not excluded from the process and is not given a single candidate at the end of the day to where we don't really have a choice other than the up or down vote.
We'll do the very best we can. As I outlined earlier, as trustees, feel free to get, to ask all the questions that need to be asked. There's a fine line between wearing everybody out and simply trying to find out what's going on. Hopefully we meet that balance, but clearly I encourage trustees to ask questions. And I think even if we have meetings with candidates, I don't have a problem with trustees attending those meetings, quite frankly. Carolyn might have some public meetings, so I mean I would attend all of those. I mean you can really be as involved as you want to be in this process, but just be mindful of the fact that there will be a chairman and a committee and committee members, and try to be mindful of their time, but get as involved as you want to be, Trustee Gruters.
This is Leslie Pantene again.
You're recognized, Trustee Pantene.
I think that we need to decide, not now, but at the board meeting in 2 weeks, how many finalists want, what kind of a process have some kind of an organized process.
I tell you what, I'll answer that in a minute. Why don't we clear up the motion that's on the floor with a second? And I'll answer your question. I'm not dodging it. But there's a motion in a second that we appoint Ed Burr as chairman of the select committee. Is there any more debate or any questions? Are there any objections to Trustee Burr chairing this committee? Without objection, so the motion passes. Congratulations, Trustee Burr. Good luck, buddy.
Thank you, Chairman.
I appreciate the confidence, and I was looking forward to one more job, so I appreciate the opportunity to serve. I do think that the comments I've taken to heart listening, and the first step, of course, will be to try to identify the proper search firm, and with your consent and the direction that I've heard from the board, I will work quickly to identify the firms that may be potential hires, and if we can get them by our meeting or shortly thereafter, have a chance to make that, at least presentations from them for the search committee as soon as it's formed.
Great. Well, you have a tough task because, again, the next president of FSU is we have big shoes to fill, and we certainly want to hire the best person that we possibly can. So, having said that,
the president of FSU will be a great job for somebody, and we look forward to the process.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Chairman Burr. Careful what you wish for, by the way.
Thank you.
Having said all that, the third part of the third issue I really want to talk about was an interim president. And but before we get there, what I do want to do is we do have a board meeting in a little over 2 weeks. It's a regularly scheduled board meeting, not an emergency board meeting. At that point in time, we will have members of the selection committee appointed. They'll be ready to go. I'm hoping that Trustee Burr will have a list of search firms. Perhaps we can even select a search firm at that meeting. I don't know yet. I don't want to move so quickly that we stumble, but I don't want to have us sit on our thumbs either. So we'll just see how that plays out in the next couple of weeks. So we will be prepared at the next board meeting to make to make some more decisions. With respect to an interim president, we've determined that President Barron will be with us through April 2nd. What happens after April 2nd? I'm not sure yet, personally, and perhaps you trustees have some thoughts or ideas. If you do, please let Carolyn Egan know those. If you have someone that you think would be a good interim president, I don't know how long that will take. Again, some of these, it may be 90 days, it may be 180 days. I don't know. I want to make sure that we have the right person, though, in as president. So I would like to make that decision at the next board meeting as to who the interim president will be after April the 2nd. And now, having said that, are there any trustees, does anyone have any comments on that? Trustee Ballard.
Do you make that decision, or does the board make that?
I think the board, I'm happy to have the board make the decision.
Can you do it open-ended? They'll come on.
Yeah, I mean, I could make a recommendation, but I suspect it would be subject to the approval of the Board of Trustees, so.
And also the Board of Governors. So it's,
that's right,
even
in the Board of
under
Governors.
presidents.
So I want it to be a consensus person. And once again, I have no one in mind right now. A couple thoughts, but again, it's been a short period of time, and as I grow older, I find that if I'm a bit more deliberate and thoughtful, I make better decisions. So I think we can make a great decision between now and the next board meeting. If the board meeting were in April or May, I would suggest that we make a decision now, but we've got a couple of good weeks to make that decision. And again, with respect to the interim president, please let Carolyn Egan know. And with respect to the makeup of the selection committee, if you want to be on there, let her know. If you have someone that you think should be on there. For example, I've had a call from the head of the Alumni Association suggesting that they have someone on there, and I get that. I mean, I get that. I understand that. So, but hopefully, trustees, you do need to go through Carolyn Egan. And also, just a reminder to trustees, you can't email me, you can't email each other, you can't call. There are sunshine laws out there. I want to make sure that, we abide by the sunshine laws, and I certainly assure you I will. So having said that, what else do we have coming up, Carolyn? We have set up, by the way, a presidential search website to facilitate communication as we move through the search process. Liz, do you want to talk about that for a minute? You're recognized.
This is Trustee Rolando. I cannot hear Liz speaking.
Okay, she's walking to the podium, Trustee Rolando.
Thank you.
And I trust that all of you are able to hear us well right on the phone. I have my face stuck into the microphone doing my best. Liz, you're recognized.
The URL for the presidential website will be fsu.edu/presidential search, all one word. I do have a mock-up of the site that this is not live yet. We expect it to go live in a day or two. We will have the opportunity for the public to post comments. Anybody can give us feedback. We'll have the position profile posted, any news items. I hope we, maybe even this afternoon or first thing tomorrow, can post a link to this meeting. So this will be the central repository for all things presidential search at FSU.
Wonderful. And I think that helps us from a transparency perspective. And anyone in this room or anyone on this call, if you have thoughts on who the next president should be, send it through the website or do whatever you want to do. But I think this helps us get as much feedback on who our next president is. So. And
we will have an email account. I'm not sure right this moment what the address will be, but it'll be a generic presidential search email account so people can submit comments without having to post them publicly if they choose to do this. But as the chair said, our goal is to be as transparent as we can be and get as much feedback from our constituents as we can.
Great. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Leslie Pantine again.
You're recognized.
Back to the search firm. Can we give Mr. Burr the power to go through the search firms and come back to the board meeting in March with a recommendation versus going, committee picking people and everybody having an opinion and, and have Ed with the help of the administration, and then he can go, this is what we did, and we came up with whatever, and this is what it cost, and then we approved it that day, versus having a whole big debate of,
Trustee Pantine, I will tell you that I have no problems at all in accepting the recommendation of Trustee Burr. I think he's a qualified person. I think he's smart and bright and will find the best search firm. But by the same token, I don't wish to jam things down people's throats either. I'm not implying we are, but I'll open the floor up. Are there folks that want to have us vote on that and listen to them next meeting? Let's talk about that right now. Trustee Hill, you're recognized.
June Duda.
Okay, Trustee Duda, you're recognized.
Well, I think that if we trust Ed enough to have him chairman, I think he would be thoughtful in the process of eliminating, and I just think that you have to give confidence to your chairperson.
Okay. Trustee Hillis, you're recognized.
Well, Trustee Burr, as chair, will he have a committee of other trustees that will be looking over these RFPs that we get for the executive search firms?
He will receive, the committee itself will receive RFPs. I'm not sure that it can be done in 2 weeks, to be honest with you. I'm not totally sure it can be done in 2 weeks. It would be great if it could, we could.
Well, that might be very difficult to get these firms or to get this information. But my question is he may have a committee of trustees of 3 or 4 people that will be reviewing this.
We would have members of the selection committee who would review that with them. And there may be trustees on that selection committee as well. And staff, as well as staff.
Oh, okay. This is so critical to getting a good president, is finding the best search firm. I personally would like to look at the RFPs and the people who have submitted, to represent us on the executive search firm. I'd like to see that.
Chairman, if I may.
Kyle Clark has already begun some research on the various search firms. We have our own little institutional knowledge of who we've used. We've used some of these firms before. There's some that we haven't used. There's a firm that has recently conducted the University of Florida, the FAMU, and I think the FAU search that is actually located in Florida. And there are other firms that we have prior dealings with. So we're going to look at them all and see, what offers the best in terms of creating. We've already talked about what our priorities are in terms of a firm that generates a pool on a national level, not just a regional level, who has an efficient process, who has a lot to offer us in terms of, identifying the leadership skills that we want. So we've already done some preliminary research, as much as you can do in 4 days or whatever it's been, but we certainly have, boots on the ground running on that.
Right. Well, if you narrow it down to, say, 3 search firms, I'd like to see, who those search firms are and get the reasons why you decided.
Let me suggest this, which I think is, for a change for me, a good idea. That we send out, we try to get as many RFPs as we can ASAP, and that Chairman Burr and members of the selection committee review those, boil it down to 3, and let them maybe make presentations at the next Board of Trustees meeting, and we help them make that decision. Right. Is that acceptable to everybody?
Yes.
Does anyone object to that? That gets us on a good fast track and gets everyone's buy-in. So is that okay? On the telephone, are there any objections to that system?
No. I think it's great. Obviously, and this is Ed Burr speaking. We'll move. One, we got to make sure we comply with not only our tradition but state law in this process of procuring the firms. So I'll work quickly with Carolyn and make sure that we do the best job to move that along as quickly as possible and get responses from these firms. And if we can do it by the next board meeting, it'd be great to have them ready to respond for the next board meeting or for our first selection committee meeting. It'll be quick. But I think making sure that the members of this board are involved in reviewing the RFPs and at least know the search process and the reason would be important. We can make sure we communicate that to everybody in accordance with the sunshine laws.
Good. I think we're all in agreement. Having said that, we do have some issues that are going on that I want to make sure all stay in the middle of, and as will Provost Stokes, who, by the way, has been just a great, I don't know where you are, Provost Stokes, but just been wonderful the last few days, and in the past. I shouldn't just say the last few days. Y'all know what I meant. Everybody knows what I meant. Golly. It's like telling somebody, hey, you lost weight. Oh, so I was fat before that, I mean, you can't win sometimes. But having said that, Tallahassee has a major capital campaign going on, and we're a part of it with respect to our Civic Center. We'll stay in the middle on that. And Trustee Hillis has agreed to continue to monitor those meetings, be part of those since he lives here. And I encourage all of you that live here in Tallahassee, that's a lot of money, and we need to be part of that. So President Barron has done a good job of making sure that we're at the table when it comes to distributing those dollars, but we need to make sure we remain at the table. So we've got that going on. We have a capital campaign. And that there's a lot of money to be raised in the capital campaign. And frankly, as I look at history, it's not unusual for us to have or for universities, major universities, to have a presidential change in the midst of a capital campaign. It's just part of it. And we'll get through it, but those things, they're on our radar screen, they're on staff's radar screen, hopefully they're on the trustees' radar screen. All these balls that we have up in the air, we're not going to let them drop. We will continue to make sure that we move forward on all the initiatives that we have moved forward on. So having said that, Carolyn, is there anything else that you want me to bring up today?
I think that's it.
Trustees, are there any comments or any advice that you can give to me and the rest of us as we continue on until our next board meeting? Trustee Contreras, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify an earlier point that I think I can echo the sentiments of this board, trust your leadership very much. And I know that you will rely on our perspectives and our opinions very much throughout this process. So I will definitely be taking your recommendations of sending names to Carolyn Egan to make sure you get the best student perspective that you can on the advisory committee. So thank you for taking on that glorious burden of putting this together.
I'm going to be a very unpopular person, I'm sure, over the next couple of weeks. Trust me on that one. Any more comments by board members? And again, we're so fortunate to have a wonderful staff. And President Barron, I will tell you that I'm slow to warm up to people, but in the last couple of years as chairman, I've really warmed up to President Barron, and I'm very, very sorry to see him go. Having said that, we need to pick up the ball, move forward, and we will. And we'll do the best job we can to find his replacement. And he has provided us with a great staff. And like I said earlier, when you're at the top, like we are, not just football-wise, but academically, I mean, we have made great strides. You know, everyone wants to pick off your top players, so we'll make sure that we do the best we can to keep the staff intact. So, any comments, any words of advice from you folks out there on the telephone? Having said that, our next board meeting, we have a workshop on March the 6th, board meeting on March the 7th, and if there's no further business, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.